I'm Emma. I'm a level designer here at Rivet Games, and I'm currently working on scenarios. So with scenarios, we'd start with an initial brief stating where the train will go, roughly what interesting events may occur, but then we'll really get to flesh them out. So we'll start thinking about time, date, weather, thinking about a story we can maybe put in. We'll detail in a document each stop that we need to set up, where the player needs to pick up their passengers, how the timetable will be structured, what times they'll need to leave and depart, and then we'll jump into engine and execute that. So then we'll jump into the editor and we'll set variables that make the scenario unique, such as date, weather, time. These all kind of factor into the narrative. So you want to think about, will it be busy at this time of day? Will it be quiet? And all these things kind of make an impact to gameplay. But also weather can have an impact to the narrative, which could impact gameplay, such as faults, delays, and stuff. Depending on the time of day, you can change the amount of people that will appear in the station waiting for the train, the amount of people who get on and off the trains. These are all affected by the time of day that we set in game. You'll want to give the player conditions such as stop at a station, pick up passengers, or go to a station. These are set as icons above the train, and these are basically objectives the player has that can reward them with points or deduct them with points if they fail to meet these conditions. So you can have stopping at a platform, which can be signaled on track by this green bar. You can have them stop on just a lane, which is signaled by this orange track, or you can have them playing more of like a freight mission where they're coupling wagons to their locomotive, and you'll kind of put them down here on this sort of track where it's more industrial and they won't be used for passenger loss and stuff. We've been trying to make scenarios that are more unique and not just passenger services. We've been playing around with a few other functions such as coupling up wagons, but also an interesting function I found was the marshalling, which you can kind of create a puzzle for the player to solve. So you can give them an order of wagons that they need to pick up. So they need to have the wagons in the correct order so that when the engine reads the script, that each wagon number is in the right order. So I was playing around with having them collect wagons in a certain order so that they can move them to a certain siding in a specific order before they're allowed to leave and proceed on the rest of the route. To make gameplay a little more unique to this scenario, we've implemented the Thompson interactive system of allowing passengers on the train to request stops. So a few of our stations aren't actually timetabled to be stopped at, but the AI passengers can request for the player driver to stop at these stations, kind of like how you would request to stop at a bus. So when the player's locomotive drives over this track with this signal here, it will request the player to stop at the next station despite it not being timetabled. And because of this, we've had to play around with programming our own functions so that when the player crosses over a specific track, it'll know if the player has stopped or not, and if they've not stopped, they'll get a message box being like, oh no, you didn't stop when you should have, and that sort of thing, just to kind of add a bit more variation to gameplay. This is one of our scripted messages that you actually need to program and fire out variables so that the engine kind of works with the code to create more unique boxes of text so we can add pictures and stuff. And I believe you can even add videos to the editor, which is kind of cool. So you are directed through the route via this AI dispatcher that controls the signals and kind of tells the trains from their priority order from low to high who can go on the track, because there's only one lane for most of the route. So we're in control of the routing of the player train, but with the AI, things can get a bit more difficult. We set up the route of each train, the player and the AI trains, but the dispatcher schedules the trains to get from A to B as quickly as possible. So this can cause a few problems here and there, such as multiple trains trying to claim ownership of the same track. We set trains from priority to load high. Normally, the player train will be the superior priority so that they always get to go on track. But you can play around with this. For example, if you set the player's train to the lowest priority, so all the AI trains will be able to go before the player train, which will cause the player to sit and wait for other trains, which can create some unique gameplay where it kind of simulates real life because there's so many train drivers and there's no priority between them, so the player shouldn't always get priority and be able to play the route with no stops. Everything is replicated from real life, to the speed limits, to the signaling, and to the design of the track, so that we can actually play the route to the timetable of the real life track. So this is the real world timetable of the route we're doing at the minute. These are the stations we're including. We can see the time here of when the train should hit each of these stations, and we can use this to get our estimates for when we're going into the timetable view in-game and we're setting up when the player needs to be at the station and when they need to depart the station. Here we can also see which ones are request stations. So these are the ones where we can add unique gameplay features, such as having the passengers ask the player to stop the train, or the people waiting to board at the station can also request the train to stop here. So we can actually go in and program more unique gameplay features than what were in the base game. So we try to follow the timetable, especially when we're planning the routes. It's a good basis to be able to see how many minutes it should take between each station, and then when we play test it, we'll edit accordingly because it might take less time or it might take more time depending on how many variables you put in. For example, how many request stops you have could alter the length of the route. Any specific events such as engineer works or maybe even landslides or weather conditions, these can all impact gameplay and the timings of gameplay. So we'll set up our player train with all the commands and functions we want them to execute throughout the route, like go to the station, pick up passengers, go to another station, stop at a certain location, and then we'll test that in-game. So when we're testing the scenarios, we're testing them in real time as it would be in real life, and then we're driving the routes. So once we've tested our scenarios and they work with just the player train, then we'll try and add some more complexity with AI trains. We can set them up so they can couple up to other trains in the background. They can come in and pull into the station while the player is waiting. We can make the player wait for them to come in, do their thing, and we can just try and create more life in the station to kind of accurately represent what a busy station might be like in real life. So I'm a game design and production management graduate from Abertay before coming here and finally getting to do what I want to do, which is working in level design and creating 3D environments. It's been really interesting to go from writing about environmental storytelling and level design in my uni work and dissertation to actually working in level design and being able to tell stories through the environment.